person just rang me there to say that on RTE News this morning that the head person in Eirgrid, that's the Irish electricity system operator, was on saying that we can expect blackouts this winter. Blackouts. Now, our demand before all this wind energy started in the data centres never rose above 5,000 megawatts. And that'd be the first week in January if the weather was bad. 5,000 was the maximum. Now it's a way up. It can be up as far as 7,000. Now, you get it there on the smart dashboard, Eirgrid smart dashboard. Now, one of the things I've calculated there is that the windmills themselves, there's 4,000 megawatts of wind energy, and they use at least 10% of their nameplate capacity in house power or parasitic power. That means there's 400 megawatts of electricity needed. A big power station. Most of the smaller power stations in Ireland are 280 megawatts. These ones here would be 400. That's a massive pull. So you're talking about roughly 1.5 of them per day. Sorry now, just to get that right. Yeah, you're talking about enough power for 400 megawatts has to be generated somewhere. 1.5 power station capacity, roughly. Not money pint, but ordinary power station capacity. Right? And each one of these uses 56 lorry loads of diesel fuel if they're engines. And so half of 56 is 25. So you're talking about 75 big lorry loads of diesel fuel to run Ireland's wind farms in a day. Yeah, they use power. They use parasitic power. They can't do without it. And they use it every hour of every day, whereas they only generate 21% of the time. Okay. Now, the question about the engines Ryan bought, he bought 10 million euros worth of engines from the MAN company, MAN in Germany, and they were left on the South Docks in Dublin. They thought they had nothing to do when you bring them across the Westlink Bridge. They can't bring them across, and if the Roads Authority allowed them, it would be severe negligence because the shut could easily crack the Westlink Bridge. That's out. Now, there come up many ideas. One is to use a tug or some kind of a flat boat that you'd load each engine on and bring it across to the North Keys. How are you going to get it from there over to, is it up there, where some of these data centres are up around Grange Gorman, are they up there somewhere anyway? Maybe Broadstone, wherever they're up that area anyway. So how do you get them across there? Is there not bridges there? Are there not railway bridges? How would you take them over a railway bridge, and how would you take them over a river bridge? Or how would you take them on the roads with the road supported 500 tons plus the low loader or the trailer to carry them? So there's no bridge fit to take that. Certainly what's been said is you could have them big long lorries and only have so many wheels on the bridge at a time. You can't do that on the Westlink Bridge because it's all up in big pillars, so the weight would be on one pillar and it could break it. So that seems to be out. The idea of bringing it that way seems to be out. Isn't it amazing that when Newgrange was built, they brought the stones round from Clogherhead and up the Boyne, and they swung them under their boats. When the stone was under the water, it was much lighter because of the water displacement. And we can't get the engines round. Anyway, the engines should never have been bought. These engines they'd use a lorry load of fuel in very, very short order. I'd say in a half an hour. So they were for the data centres. So they've allowed all these data centres and welcomed them in and give them planning permission with no assessment whatsoever. And now we won't have enough electricity. Add to that all the electricity, heat, and the migrant accommodation and all of that. And we really are now an economy run on a little coal, a little oil, a lot of gas. But we're really also run on ordinary diesel oil. Diesel is the premium. Diesel is the fuel of the world. Diesel will do anything. You can use it right down to a small car up to the biggest ship in the world. So there you have it. You can't really use it on airplanes yet, or you can't use it on motorbikes usually. But that's it. It's a diesel economy, and so the diesel must keep flowing. And if it ever gets cut, what are we going to do? So this was extreme negligence. I've told you before, you cannot use any wind farm unless there is already 36% of firm fossil fuel power in the grid. And if there's too much wind, they have to turn them off and they have to pay for that. The result is the highest electricity prices in the world. What a mess they made. Somebody made another idea that they could disassemble the engines on the south coast there around Irish Town in Dublin and bring them up in parts. Take the sump off them and all that. So now you're going to undo the gaskets, drain out all the oil. Would Eamon Ryan would you let him at it with a spanner? And then you split them up into the component parts and bring them up and assemble them on site at the data centre. Will the head be sealed? You put the head back on. Will it stay on? You certainly need a new head gasket. And will you have to undo the crank and the gudgeon pins and the journals and all that? You can imagine the expense involved in that. There are some idiots. Now, there are diesel engines everywhere in all these data centres. Diesel is the thing. And I know people work in data centres. They're loaded down big yellow diesel engines everywhere. So clearly the government has warned the data centres we may have to cut the power. And I think they're safe enough if you cut it for a while. The powers are usually made for cooling them and that and using them. But I'm not too well up on that. But in any event, they're the big thing. So why did we, at a time way back 10, 15 years ago, who were told we have to cut down our carbon emissions, why did we allow all this to happen that is going to increase the demand for electricity, for data centres and for migrants and for all that? Why was that allowed to happen? And will there be any accountability for it? And they told us it wouldn't matter. And the existing data centres, who is supplying the power to the existing data centres that were due to get those engines? Those 10 million worth of engines, they were to go to data centres. How are they managing? And where is this carbon footprint recorded? How are they managing that? That's the big question. I mean, if you're waiting on 10 million worth of diesel engines, there's 11 of them. They're around 900,000 apiece euros. And they don't arrive. What do you do? Because those centres are still there. Anyway, folks, on 7 minutes, you can see how absolutely great a mess this is. Imagine I discovered that. Existing emergency generators are using 56 large articulated lorry loads of fuel per day. Each one uses 56 every 3 days, but there's 3 of them, which is 56 lorry load per day. And when these big diesel engines would come in, you'd want the lorries queuing up with diesel to keep them running. How does that make sense? How does that save fossil fuel? The original ones run on coal and heavy fuel oil. There was no refining on the fuel oil. You used a different type of oil, but they've shut them down. And so we're relying on diesel. Comment underneath. We'll see you back soon. Thank you.